So, welcome to FrightFest.
Thank you. Very much. Thanks for having us.
Perfect Skin, tell us a little bit about it.
Perfect Skin started as an idea after I was watching a documentary on tattoo and body modification one evening, and for some reason the imagery just stuck with me and affected me quite a lot, and I kind of started to think why, and I think it was to do with the idea of change and people's perception of beauty. It was also to do with the level of pain involved in piercing and body suspensions. Compared to horror films as such, it's something you can really relate to. So when you see something going through the skin, you kind of go, ooh. And it's not the same way you see someone's head getting chopped off with an axe. So I think that's kind of started the whole thing. And then I guess I kind of thought, if I treat this like a creation film, like a Frankenstein kind of story, then that's kind of what I hung it on, and that's how I started the whole script process.
And I think as well, the other thing that kind of came from that was at the time our daughter was quite young, and we had an au pair, and it was from Eastern Europe, and it kind of struck us after, at one point she was sick actually, she'd get chicken pox. And it struck us that we had no contact information for this girl. We didn't know where her parents were. So, and although you're kind of like...
There was an agency, but there wasn't an immediate way of going...
Yeah, and we thought, there must be lots of these young people, from different parts of the world who are just adrift in London. And if they did disappear, who would miss them?
Miss them, yeah.
So it was kind of a combination. I think that's what
because the start of it's all in a club, and then she gets... picked up.
Yes.
So, a bit about your background.
Yes.
You come from commercials.
Yeah, I went to art school years and years ago. I went to St Martin's. I did film there, and that was a very, very sort of fine arts based course. And when I came out of there, the only real opportunities were running jobs. My first running job was in a post house in commercials. And it kind of just been a linear line from there. So I started as a runner, then an assistant, and I'm old enough to even started cutting on film with tape. All that. So I went through all my apprenticeship on that, and just as I started editing, we moved on to Avid. So.
But the fact that you've had a grounding from the bottom up, it must give you an insight into filmmaking. A lot of filmmakers who just come in.
Yeah, it does. And I think the best thing about it, I think the saddest thing about the change in the edit room is that when you're learning that, there's two assistants and one editor, so you're in the room the whole time with an experienced editor. So it gives you a really good grounding, and now it's a much more insular job than it used to be.
I think the commercials industry as a whole, I mean, there's a great history in this country of commercials directors turned filmmakers, Ridley Scott, Parker Putnam line, and I think that the great thing about working in commercials is you're working to structure, and you have a client that you're answering to. So you can't just go off and have a flight of fancy and do whatever you like. So I think it's really, really good. It gives you a great grounding in creativity. B, you get to play with a lot of toys in commercials because the budgets are huge compared to feature films. And C, as I say, I think it does give you that good structure of having to think, about an audience. And I think D, the thing that's really helped us, and we've had comments, throughout the promotion of Perfect Skin, is I think a lot of young filmmakers go into film with the idea of the film, but don't go into the idea of who's going to see the film and how they're going to get the film to market. As I was reading today about show business, it's called show business, not show, as Woody Allen famously said. And I think that is, I think for a lot of young filmmakers, they don't think, how am I going to market this film? How am I going to get it to market? Who's going to want to see it? Why would they want to see it? And I think the commercials industry, it really does give you that head start, because that's what it is basically, trying to get something.
So can you talk about how you chose your lead actor, your lead actress?
Yeah, Richard came about basically. We talked to a couple of people, but Richard, after I'd done that, I'd seen 31 and his character in Doomhead, and he was just so brilliant at it. I thought I wanted to meet him, so we set up a meeting and we had just a good chat for a couple of hours, and he kind of really got the character. He understood it wasn't torture porn kind of film. It was very much a character-led film, and I think the fact that we both were singing from the same page, basically, that was it. So Rich was committed to it. Natalia I'd had for about a year or two before, simply because we had another producer on board who told us he had money and then didn't have money, but that's another very long story, which I try not to be bitter about. But anyway, we had Natalia from that course, and she just came in from an open casting, basically, and she was just stood out. She was it's a really nuanced, quiet performance, and it's one of those performances having done casting through commercials, you kind of look back at a tape and you sometimes you think, are they really doing anything? And then you look back and it's all in the eyes, and you're not seeing it when you're looking directly, but when you look back through the camera, you're seeing a very sort of like subtle performance.
Best type of acting.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's the difference, because we were just talking about you working on commercials earlier, apart from the budget, the discipline must be different.
Discipline's very different. I think the best part of it is that when you work on a commercial, there's always someone behind you going, oh, I don't know about this, or can you change that, and something other. And when you work on a feature, especially an independent feature, probably not a big Hollywood one, that you do get to do your shot and go, actually, I thought that was quite good, and there's no one behind you have to check with, so you can move on. So there's a lot of freedom in that, and it made it quite quick compared to some commercials, which was good. I mean, I'm quite quick on commercials anyway, but it really was, if you've got it in 1 or 2 takes, you moved on. It was great.
Yeah, apart from one day, we finished early every day.
Oh wow!
Yeah, the first couldn't believe.
Not many shoots do that.
Yeah.
Although that's the one thing that didn't happen. I think a big problem with independent films is that when there was one part we were shooting all the seller stuff, and time was getting difficult then, because actually they gave us very, very short days. We had to be out by 5 or 6 most days, which for a film shoot is tight. And so actually what happened in that was we started losing scenes, but also scenes kept getting put back, and I had one big, without giving too many spoilers away, death scene that I'd always said, right, we need a day for this. There's got to be a full day, because it's so important. I think we started turning over on that at
11.
Yeah.
And I pulled the plug at 12.
Yeah. And that was the only day, because literally the location had a wedding coming in the next day, and we had to be out. So
some very odd people were getting married in a cellar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably some FrightFest fans.
Yes.
We're not that weird. And would there be anything you would do any different?
Oh, there's loads of things I do different. Yes, I think I was talking to Greg, and Greg came up with a comment about something he'd structure differently in the film. But yeah, there's loads of things you do different when you come back. I think I talked to you before, the film initially came in at just over 2 hours, which I was surprised at, because it literally was just 110 pages on a script. And so it took a lot of cutting down. I think I'd overdone the story at the beginning, and so we cut it down to 15, but I think I could structure that better now, script-wise. So there's quite a few things like that, but actor-wise I wouldn't change a thing. They're all brilliant.
And then finally, what's next for you both?
I got a script actually, which is which I've got to read, but it's the writer I worked with before, Dusan, so who co-wrote this, and he sent me one that he's just finished, so I'm going to look at that, and that is a thriller, serial killer thriller set in Serbia, which sounds nice. Okay. Could be right on the street.
And we've also got a thriller set in LA.
Yeah.
I've got a rom-com that I'm supposed to be doing in Brazil next year, which would be nice, and also we've been asked by a kind of circus-style trip to do a documentary. Can't really say anything more about that, because if I told you who it was, it would give the whole thing away. Quite well known.
One more thing as well. I had a nice job just after I'd finished cutting this one, which was I got to edit a comedy as well, feature, which was really nice. So it's by a young director called Jack Spring, so look out for him.